Okay, I think we should start. Okay, let me introduce myself. I'm architect Muhammad Azrul Jamil. My video is lagging. Never mind. Okay, good evening to all. Again, my name is architect Muhammad Azrul Jamil. I'm the co-chair of Education Committee of under PAM. So also we have here architect Ajanta, the chairman. How are you, Mr. Ajanta? And of course, we have our speaker tonight, this evening, TS Idris. So this is the PAM Academia Discourse 2023, Series 4, Session number 3. We already have a Session 1 and 2 before, so now it's Session 3. So today, we have our speaker, TS Idris type. Let me introduce himself first. TS Idris has a degree, Master in Business Admin in 2009, Bachelor of Architecture 1998, Bachelor of Science in Housing, Building and Planning 1995. He also has been practicing in the construction industry in diverse sectors, including architecture firm, design and bid contractor, and project management consultant. And currently he serves as a lecturer cum researcher at the Faculty of Architecture and Built Environment, or as known as FABE, at Infrastructure University Kuala Lumpur, IUKL. His academic portfolio includes undertaking teaching, curriculum, design development, and accreditation for architecture program. And he was the head of department, head of program Bachelors of Science, Architecture Studies, head of program Master of Architecture, as well as the committee member of Quality Assurance and Knowledge Management in the faculty, FABE. TSJ is an academic member of Malaysian Institute of Architects, PAM, of course, a member of PAM Education Committee, a graduate member of Board Architect Malaysia, or LAM, a registered professional technologist, that's why you can call him TS or technologist, under Malaysian Board of Technology, MBOT, and editorial members for the Journal of Architectural Education and Practice, and the executive editor for the Malaysian Architecture Journal, MAJ. He also serves as Acacia Committee of Architectural Education, or ACAI, of the Architect Regional Asia, ACASIA, and as the ACAI Secretariat in 2022 until 2023, with the diverse exposure in both industrial and academia. His research interests include knowledge management in architecture education and practice, sustainable design and development, urban heritage study, and the application of information and communication technology in the built industry. And therefore, I would like to call upon TS Idris to start his talk tonight, this evening. Up to you. The floor is yours. Unmute. Unmute, please. Idris, yet to unmute. Unmute.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. I'll share the screen. Okay, hopefully everybody can see. Full screen mode. All right, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you, Architect Azli, for the introduction. So for today, the PAM Academic Discourse Series number 3, edition 4, I would like to talk about knowledge management in architecture education. So this is a bit of my background, as mentioned by Architect Azli. I think the term of knowledge management come into my mind was back in 1998, okay? Because at that time I was in the final year, part 2. Yeah, I was doing smart school architecture. So that's how I get involved into the internet, okay, infrastructures, okay, as well as knowledge management. But I think what triggers me is actually 5 years later, okay, when I was becoming a senior manager architecture under the project management consultant, I find out there are certain things that architects should know, okay, but for some reason it is not there. Okay, for instance, in the case of designing a school, okay, so let's say we are designing a school, okay, so basically what we have learned from the public work department or JKL school, it is there, okay, it is work as a school. A classroom should work as classroom, okay, but unfortunately for some reason the design is not fit as a school, okay. So, and this is something that I think everybody should know, okay, especially in Malaysia, okay, how to design a school in the tropical context, thing like that. And the thing is out there, okay, we can already see, and there's a lot of reference, okay. So this is where I start looking into more and more about how actually, as an architect, okay, we can actually manage knowledge. Oh, somebody is coming in. To manage knowledge. So for this presentation, I try to keep it about, hopefully can finish about 45 minutes, okay, about 50 slides. Okay, we get into what is knowledge, okay, and then we talk about knowledge management, the architecture, the term itself. What is it, knowledge management architecture in the sense of IT infrastructure, as well in the sense of we as an architect, okay, try to understand that. And the most important part is actually in terms of architectural education. So we'll define what is architecture education in the knowledge management. And finally, we try to get into some kind of insight, okay, what we are planning to do, and hopefully we can get some participation in future. All right. So for a start, let's begin with a retrospective. Okay, I believe in this lecture, some of us are educators. I can see a few students as well. All right. And of course, all of us have been a student. Okay. Some of us also actively practice. So this is the image that I shared, I think 2 weeks ago in the PAM hub in IUKL. We have the club next 100. Okay. There was a carrier talk. Okay. So we bring in together with CLAF, okay, and also from the help of PAM also, some real practitioner, okay, talking to the students, okay, about the reality of architecture. Okay, so we have architect Fuad here, and these are the students. Okay, at the same time, we also conduct, because in that university in UKL, basically almost the same time with students having their portfolio day. So you can see that lecturers, okay, we may have something in mind, okay, when assessing student in terms of design, okay. All right. Student themselves, okay, they also have in their mind, okay, what is it design is all about, okay. And we can always see a contradictory of ideas in terms of understanding of architecture. Okay? Sometimes we lecturers, okay, we tend to basically dictate what is design, how the design process should be, okay, as if architecture is about something that we have to follow in sequence, okay. But the reality out there, okay, when the students talk to the practitioner, or even when we practice, okay, we find that there's a lot of things that we need to really grasp, okay, how to go about design, okay, how to go about managing the design, okay, managing the project, okay, the construction, and get things done, right? So when we see this kind of situation, we also understand that sometimes different expectation, okay, from educators as well as from students. Okay, at this stage, we are talking about architectural education in the university or in architecture college. Okay, later we go beyond that. Okay, and that's why the importance of having a practitioners being attached for benefit of the student, number one. And I think the important thing is for the benefit of the lecturers as well, okay? Because we have to acknowledge that not all people have a chance to really go through all different kind of project, for example, or all different kind of experience in architecture firm. Okay, I think I'm quite lucky because I have been in architecture firm, design and build contractor, project management consultant, and now also actively as educators, as well as continue the practice. So this is the thing that we should actually try to understand. Okay, and in terms of architecture education, if we read all the journals, okay, all the discussion on the conference and whatnot, okay, there's a lot of pedagogy in architecture, okay, but I think it boils down into two types, okay. One is the so-called mechanistic pedagogy, okay. The second is a systemic pedagogy. Okay, this kind of pedagogy is actually, for example, for part one student, okay, we are trying to give them exposure, okay, about the process of architecture into a disconnected component, okay, and how they can derive into the design, okay. But when we come into part two, okay, the approach should be more focusing on how they can grasp, okay, all the relationship between different part of body of knowledge that they have learned in part one, as well as what they have learned when they are in the so-called internship. Okay, so this is the thing. Okay, these two is still work. It depends on sometimes educators. Yes, different educators may have a different approach on how to go about it. Okay, but the ideal way is that we should go more on the systemic pedagogy. Okay, we open into all different part of knowledge, and we train people, the future architect, okay, how to grab those relationships, because we have to tell them, okay, when you are designing something, okay, when you are trying to create something, basically you are creating for something that must be buildable, okay. And these are the things that they have to really understand the whole context of a different component of architecture. So this is just an introduction as a retrospective. Now let's move into the perspective, okay, where we are heading in this discussion. All right. So we begin with knowledge. Okay. So we have to really understand what it is knowledge. Okay. How does it different from information? Okay. And even information. Okay. How it is different from a mere data. Right. Because there's no point that we have all the architecture books. Okay. We have all the project in hands. We have all the information. If we cannot understand all those things, it's just a data. Okay. But when we can grasp what the data means, okay, it's become an information. And information we leave as information. Okay, information that we give to the student, okay, or even information that practitioners or architects, okay, when they give a talk to a student, it's remain an information. Okay, but we wish that information should be transformed into knowledge, something that they know, okay, and they know how to make use of the knowledge. Okay, they can find the wisdom. So this is actually the conceptual progression from data to knowledge. So we can see here from the data, okay, become information. This is where we start understanding the relation. And as we can see the patterns, okay, of different information that revolve around us, okay, that become a knowledge, and that knowledge, okay, later on we get into the wisdom. And wisdom is the one that is really make an architect. Okay. Otherwise, anyone can design anything. Okay. But the wisdom, okay, the knowledge that we have, okay, how to get things done, the process, okay, understanding the principle. Okay. So these are the things that how we can derive knowledge into a better stage. All right. Okay. So this is transdisciplinaries in terms of knowledge fragmentation. I got this from Prof. Salama, not that, I mean from his article. Okay, so Prof. Salama is actually proposing that in terms of architecture, okay, we have to look into in terms of ecology, okay, sustainable issues, the economy itself, okay, the culture, technology, and perhaps there are some other more, okay, all right. And this so-called knowledge is actually a multidisciplinary. Okay, there's a lot of knowledge. Okay, and this is something that we should get into how we can actually integrate in terms of education, trying to educate or train future architects, okay, how to identify the boundaries, okay, and how to cross the boundaries, okay, so that we can grasp all the information and integrate into the design and also the solution. Okay. So this is the basic about knowledge. Let's move on into knowledge management. Okay. So I show you first the basics. Okay. Just for information. Basically, it is the process of we have to identify, organize, storing, disseminate information within the organization. This was when it was started. The term knowledge management back in 1960s. Okay, they are talking about that, right? Then the main problem of managing a knowledge in organization or even within our social architecture among us is actually two types of knowledge. The basic. Number one is called the tacit knowledge, which is something that is stored in the brain. Okay, something that's stored in my brain currently. Okay, it's only me can I actually access that and understand it. Okay, and the second one is the explicit knowledge, something that from our thinking, from our brain, okay, we can actually change it or convert it into drawings, documents, or any other storage, okay, in the computers, in the cloud and whatnot, okay, so that it become explicit. People can really read that. Okay, so explicit knowledge is something that very broad. Okay, it can be a lot of things. Okay, be it engineering, be it our surveying, okay, be it planning and whatnot. Okay, and the problem with explicit knowledge sometimes because it is too broad. Okay, we still need a so-called intelligence or a tacit knowledge. Okay, how to pick that and how to make use of that knowledge, right? And this is something that if we are not trained to be architects, okay, if we are not trained to be educators, okay, we can read all the books for everything, okay, but at the end of the day, when we deliver, be as a student or as a lecturer or as an architect, okay, the tacit knowledge, something that we inherit from our skill, experience, this is something that what makes different. All right. Now, this concept of basic knowledge management of tacit and explicit knowledge is that how can we convert a so-called tacit knowledge, okay, so that we can share it, okay, as explicit knowledge. Okay, this is the challenge among the challenge of the knowledge management. All right. Now, just refer back from 1970s, okay, 2000, and okay, now, in terms of knowledge management out there, okay, we start with KM1, whereby it's knowledge sharing within organization, okay, with the basic of early beginning of internets, all right, okay, and then when we have internet, okay, so we can start having knowledge management tool, how we can transfer knowledge into organization. At present, we are living in a so-called big data, okay, big data, or you can call industry 4.0, society 5.0, okay, but it is a big data era, okay, whereby it is a highly interactive, highly forward-looking intelligence of knowledge management, where machine, AI, okay, or semantic webs can actually derive or create something. I think some of us may be exposed into ChatGPT, for example. We want to find something, we key in, and the chat will actually respond to us. Okay, what to propose for your topic for assignment, for your PhD, and everything, for example. All right. Now, regardless whether it is KM1, KM2, or KM 3.0, in terms of knowledge management, the challenge is that in these three, one is either it is more result oriented, okay, is it process oriented, or is it technology oriented? Okay, so this is the thing that we have to learn to balance, to balance in terms of knowledge management. All right, now we are getting into the what is it so-called knowledge management architecture. Okay, but prior to that, perhaps I can put a question. Okay, what architecture? Okay, what is architecture? Right. So this is something that we can read the books. Okay, we can Google. We can have our own experience. Okay, we can have some kind of definition. But let me share my definition. Okay. So for me, architecture is actually an algorithm of arts and science. Okay, so you have an element of mathematics there. Okay, the arts and science. It's an algorithm of art and science in building space for mankind. Okay, so that's about all. That's architecture. Okay, if we are proposing certain thing or we designing certain thing, certain building, and that building, for example, is not really creating a space for mankind. So we should ask ourselves, okay, is it really architecture or is it really architecture that you want? Okay, because at the end of the day, okay, the purpose of building things, okay, building space or building the public realm, for example, okay, that is the purpose of architecture as well as planning. So this is what we understand, okay, as a perhaps as a student, okay, perhaps you have your own definition, all right, as a lecturer or even as a practitioner. Okay, now this architecture that we usually understand. Okay, so let's move on into the next stage. Okay, so what is architecture of life? Okay, what is architecture of knowledge management? Okay, so if you can understand from the term that I try to derive, what is architecture is all about. Okay, so let's look into architecture of life. Okay, so architecture of life is actually the algorithms, okay, algorithm of arts, okay, and also science. Okay, art is something that can be abstract. Okay, you can have a different definition or interpretation, but science is something that we can actually gauge. Okay, we can actually experiment whether it works or not. Okay, and in architecture of life, basically we must have the right algorithm to understand things. Okay, so architecture of life is actually the algorithm of art and science of space and time on Earth. Okay, so that would be my definition. Okay, now this is the one that perhaps normally I share among my students. Okay, or even among fellow practitioners. Okay, we as a designer we have to understand that we create something out of something. Okay, we design new things, okay, out of something, okay, and we become a creator, all right? But we must understand that no matter how good we are, okay, in designing or creating something, we are just as good as that, okay? We are just at that level, okay? Because God creates something out of nothing, okay? Which is something no mankind can do. So if we can understand this limit, later on as we go, I think we can see what are the limitations when we are trying to develop a system or we are trying to create an architecture that actually have some limitation. It won't be perfect, but we have to begin with something. Otherwise, we will get nothing. Okay, so this is the architecture of life. Okay, and now get into the architecture of knowledge management. Okay, so we can call this knowledge management architecture. So this is the main title of actually the presentation today. We are trying to find a way, okay, or to construct a framework or define something, okay, how we can create implicit knowledge out of tacit knowledge. What does this mean? This actually means that because the nature of our industry, the nature of creativity, okay, of a designers, okay, most of us tend to believe that whatever I have, it is my knowledge, okay, and sometimes we don't really want to share with people. We are afraid that people will steal our ideas, okay, and this I think commonly happens in studio design or even in a real practice, you know, those kind of things. But if we do understand that tacit knowledge is something that is not that so easy to be grasped. Okay, we shouldn't be mind to actually share whatever knowledge that we have. Okay, because at the end of the day, if we understand architecture, what architecture is all about, it's all about benefit to mankind. Okay, and as much as we can share okay, good things, okay, about our knowledge, okay, how we do things, okay, how we design things, how we improve certain works, okay, or how we do renovation, for example, okay, that actually will benefit the society, right? So from here, I will move into, again, looking into, just to grab this, okay, two type, mechanistic, okay, and also systemic, okay, in terms of understanding the knowledge. So knowledge management architecture, the architecture in the IT infrastructure is not architecture that we do understand. Okay, in IT architecture or system architecture or computer architecture, they are actually talking about system, how it works. Actually, similar to how they design something from different data, from different language. Okay, they build a system. Okay, to make things easy or very friendly user interface. Right. So knowledge management architecture on the first stage that I'm trying to share here, I try to be show some example here. Okay, we are talking about how this knowledge that we have, okay, can be, for instance, be captured, okay, and then we can codify, okay, and we can put in the database, okay. Can you see? Okay, okay. I hope you can see my cursor is moving.
Yes,
Right.
yes, can see
So
that.
this is the first stage of codifying knowledge, okay, or collecting knowledge, or we call this leaking the knowledge, correct? Correct. And from there, we can start doing knowledge sharing, okay, and also transfer. So when we transfer the knowledge, okay, that knowledge will come into another database, okay, another knowledge base, and that knowledge base itself can actually help others to actually access to that, and they can help to improve that. So how is this possible in terms of KM system or knowledge management architecture system in terms of IT work? Is that nowadays in Web3, okay, we are more advanced. We're no longer talking about Web2 or Web3, meaning to say everything become, I think the best would be the TikTok, okay, why they can actually take over the world within 2 years, okay. I think YouTube and even Facebook is now going under, okay, and they are making a lot of money because of the Web3 application, okay, that they can do well. They can actually mine the knowledge, okay, from people that using the TikTok, for example, and they can actually codify it, okay, and they can put it into personal experience learning. Okay, so this is the technology that we have in. So how do we actually make full use of this IT infrastructure or IT architecture? Is that we get to the basic understanding of IT and knowledge value chain. Okay, basically, using the existing infrastructure, we are not going to really design this, okay, because we get help from our programmers, things like that. Okay, we identify the knowledge, okay, we create, okay, and perhaps the most challenging part is how to actually convert the tacit knowledge into implicit knowledge, okay, so that we can collect, codify, okay, under the so-called knowledge repositories, okay, in the database. And the next thing, if we put it there, is remain as a data or information. Okay, the challenge is how do we diffuse? How do we share it? Okay, can be many things. Okay, in the groupwares. Okay, later I will show some example at the end, how to make use of it. And then video conferencing. All right. So this is the era that we are living today. And why this is very important? It is because the nature of the industry, the nature of how we learn architecture today is totally going to be very, very dynamic. Okay. For instance, now we can run architecture firm, okay, without even having a real architecture firm. Okay. We can work on virtual office. Okay. Or if our firm is so big, for example, okay, we can actually keep the cost, okay, by doing hybrid. Okay, maybe the certain thing may be still physically in office. Okay, the rest is which one. Same goes to teaching and learning of architecture. Okay, I think many courses nowadays, basically, except for studio, even studio, I think because we are being forced for the past 3 years, now we are so used to it. Okay, we can live with it. Okay, and this is actually becoming the reality in practice as well. All right. So how to actually pull the knowledge, mine the knowledge, okay, process the knowledge, okay, and put it into knowledge that we can pick and we can make use for our education as well or our practice. All right. So this is I take from IBM. Okay, they are promoting the so-called central knowledge base. Okay, just focus on the user. Okay? Because at the end of the day, the system that the IT people is works. Okay, they work on different layers of enterprise, departmental, okay, and also external and perhaps support. Okay, for their business. Okay, and for their implementation. At the end of the day, is actually the user itself. And user is actually the main challenge of knowledge management. Yeah, we can have all the system that we want for our company, for our organization, for our universities. Okay, but for instance, if lecturers don't really fully utilize that knowledge-based platform, or even students don't really utilize that, so it's become just a platform and it just remain there as information. Okay, so that is basically the challenge. So under this IBM, okay, basically the most important, I think, focus to number 4 and number 5. Okay, how to actually regulate the knowledge. Okay, how to actually streaming the knowledge that getting in and getting out. Okay, and how to mine the knowledge. Right. So this also took from IBM, the KM Enterprise. Okay, so this is how people in the IT industry term knowledge management architecture. Right? How they talk about architecture. If we try to find out Google or what, Google Scholar and whatnot of knowledge management architecture, most likely you will find into the creation of IT system. Okay, the creation of knowledge management system. Okay, they call it knowledge management architecture. So we leave this job to them. Okay, how they want to do? We are going to drive based on whatever infrastructure or facility that they have, okay, and how to make use of it so that we can actually benefit, okay, from the system that has been there. Okay, there are so many systems out there that we may buy. Okay, open source is free, thing like that. Okay, our main agenda of understanding the architecture of knowledge management is again, okay, how to create those implicit knowledge out of tacit knowledge or vice versa. Okay, how to codify the tacit knowledge, okay, make it into explicit, no, not, sorry, I think this is wrong spelling. Explicit, not implicit, explicit knowledge. Okay, explicit knowledge. I will update this slide later. Actually, by the way, you can always scan, let's say, later on after Q&A, any update, we'll try to update for benefit of all. How we want to manage knowledge that we have, okay, as a lecturers, okay, based on our experience, okay, and how we want to stream it into the student, and as a student, okay, how you can actually understand it, try to grasp, right? So this is the knowledge management that we are talking about. Let's get back into architectural education, so that we can see a bigger perspective. Okay, how knowledge management architecture can work in architecture education. So number one, when we talk about architectural education, okay, we normally thinking of School of Architecture, okay, Faculty of Architecture and Built Environment, and it's ended. Okay, but the reality is that, okay, in architecture education, it is consists of all at least these 4 within the organization. Okay, the educators, the student, the practitioners. Okay, so when we say practitioner, we call it the dedicated assistant. Okay, the part 1 graduates. Okay, or architect graduate part 2. Okay, and also the professional. the one who are licensed, okay, the one who really qualify, okay, to become a professional architect. So the things like this, okay, in our education system, okay, in the university, okay, we are accredited by or guided by Majlis Council of Architect Education. So they manage how it should work, or what are the minimum requirement at least, okay, to run an architecture program. So that the purpose is that want to make sure that both student and educator, okay, actually doing things, teaching and learning architecture according to what is guided by the maps, right? And maps is underlined, right? Okay, all the 3 years plus 2 years, okay, plus perhaps foundation or diploma, 7 years, okay, in term of we learn in architecture, and that is not end of the day, okay, because as we go out, okay, become a practitioner, okay, we are being forced, okay, to I'm not to say forced lah. We have to actually continue our professional development under the CPD program, okay. The reason is that knowledge is keep changing, okay. In architecture, in everything is keep changing, and if we don't keep up with the knowledge that happen in the industry, okay, and we will stuck there. We stuck with what we have learned in university, okay. In reality, when the student get out of university, they found out that only less than 20% of what they have learned in university is actually can be applied out there, okay. So the 80% become a data, become an information. That's something that they have learned, okay. But it cannot become a knowledge, something that they can actually practice, okay, in architecture, okay. Now, as for practitioner to become professional architects, okay, we have to go through another system of CPD, lifelong learning, okay. We got to go to oral, okay, exam part 1, exam 1 and exam 2, okay, before we can get a professional architect, okay. It doesn't end there, okay, and we still go for CPD, okay, otherwise we cannot renew our lesson, okay. I think which is good, okay, because if the regulators don't impose that restriction or that condition, I think any architect can do as they wish, okay, which is, I think, won't benefit the society, because being an architect, okay, or being a designer, I think the main important thing when we do architecture is it must benefit mankind. If we don't benefit mankind, we may become an artist, okay. If we become an artist, we become a painter and whatnot, okay, basically we can just simply do whatever we wish. We can express whatever we want, okay. But as an architect, we have a responsibility to the society. So this is what is being regulated by MAPS, okay, Lembaga Architect Malaysia, and I think PAM also supporting a lot of event, okay, to bring all this the life learning education, even what we are doing now. Yeah. All right. Now, this is a question that was posed back years ago, which I think is still relevant. Okay, talking about architecture education, but in this case, Prof. Salama was focusing on the architecture education in institution, in university. Okay, the question is whether the current system of architecture actually can integrate different type of knowledge, okay, to success a built environment. Okay, that's number one. Number two is, how do we really value research and knowledge acquisition? So when we talk about knowledge acquisition, it's something that acquired by the educators, acquired by the student, and also acquired by the professional and practitioner. Okay, and we know that some of them is actually really like to give back to the society. Okay, they share the knowledge that they acquire, they do research, and they share it. Okay. Okay. Then the next thing is that how do we really respond to all the changes? Okay, a lot of things has changed, especially after the pandemic. I think we realized that. Okay, and how do we react that effectively to the demand, okay, of the society? Okay, now we'll be talking about different crazy architecture. I'm not crazy, I mean, new ideas of architecture. Okay, we are talking about what? Metaverse architecture. Okay, VR, KAR. Okay, all right. The education itself, how it responds to the knowledge content transformation. Okay, Prof. Salama, I think, is very fond of content transformation. Most of this article. The main point is that with all the information or knowledge that we have, how do we transform that into a betterment of the society? Okay, betterment of the institution. Okay, and also the student. Okay, so this is the question. Even though it was 2008. Yeah, I think even after the pandemic now, we are what, 2008, 15, yeah, 15 years later, it's still valid. And in fact, if we read all many articles talking about knowledge content transformation and whatnot in design studio, this is the thing that coming back to the retrospective that I mentioned earlier before. Okay, we don't really share how we assess students. Students never know how they are being assessed. For example, and sometimes even among lecturers also, we don't really know how actually we assess that. Okay, right. So this is the thing that because when we have a different avenue or different stream of knowledge coming in or the lecturer, and we don't codify that to a certain extent, it becomes a tacit knowledge to individual, and it won't be good to institution, and it won't be good also to the industry, because if we don't codify that, we cannot really have the thing to be improved later, okay, in terms of delivery. All right. Now, knowledge management in architecture that we are getting in, okay, this by Hippocrates, okay, knowledge of everyday environment must legitimize our profession, okay, so we have to teach knowledge about everyday environment, all the changes in the environment, so we have to look into that. Right now, this is what we have today, okay, this is what we are doing physically, how to bring students, educators, professionals, or even suppliers and architects, okay, to get. If you have not, I'm taking the time to promote, you can come tomorrow, still there until tomorrow. All right. Now, the challenge of this is that we have conducted many events, PAM event, CLAF event, LAMP event, international event, and whatever event. Okay. And those events remain as an event. Okay. It benefits the people. Okay. And after the event finish, it is there. Okay. It is just become an information. Some people will be able to actually take that data, information, and convert it into knowledge and get it into the wisdom, okay, that they can actually bring, be as a student, educators, or even architects. Okay. But for some people, perhaps is just be there. Okay. We don't really care to actually improve things, improve how we are doing. And that's why after 30 years, 40 years, 20 years, 10 years, before pandemic, after pandemic, we are still revolved around the same problem. So in terms of knowledge management, architecture, and education, okay, even though we have forgotten about the previous KM1 and KM2, okay, we have to really look into whether we benefit from that. Okay, okay, that's number one. Number two is that, let's say we don't benefit from KM1 or KM2 that people in the industry is talking about. Okay, how can we benefit from KM3? Okay, because as I mentioned just now, basically, architecture is about long learning education. Okay, the university is just small part of it, and if we are living for the next 30 years after university, okay, for the rest of our life, okay, we are serving the society. Okay, we are serving the people. Okay, and we are serving people with responsibility, because we are doing architecture, we are not doing arts. Okay, so this is the thing. Now, coming back to this, the so-called framework, initial framework by Salama, okay, and getting into the reality of what we have under the maps. Okay, I think everybody understand. Okay, and the map we cluster into design, technology, environment, cultural context, and communication, and practice and law. Okay, and the scale of minimum fee that I show on this service basically just to show that students know about this. Okay, students learn about this. either in part 1 or in part 2. Okay. The challenge is that, do they really know how to deal with this, okay, when they practice? Okay. Because the idea is, I think, in reality, I'm not say all, but many of us perhaps, before we are taking part 3 exam, perhaps, we don't really care about all this. Okay. We don't really care about, we are learning things from our experience, doing projects, things like that. Okay. Sometimes we don't really even bother to look into the contracts. Sometimes we don't even bother to look into the detail of what are the services that we have to do. It's a thing that sometimes that we oversee, something that actually we have to deliver, but we don't deliver. Okay. And this is the thing that the information is there, okay, but the knowledge is not evolving. Okay, the knowledge is not evolving. Now, I'm going to show the idea later. It's still an idea, okay, because we are still working with the developers as well of the system. We are not going to promote you a metaverse, okay, or immersive AI, VR, okay. So that's another dimension of understanding architecture, okay, which is, I think we have seen a lot of ideas, and it is can be grasped in terms of virtual reality or in terms of experience, okay. But the realms, okay, the realms of the reality, okay. So I think this is coming soon in July, perhaps. Okay, okay. The reality of what we are doing or the idea, okay, we should go beyond that. Okay, we should really look into how we can do things to really benefit everyone. I think the 4 components that I mentioned just now, okay, the student, the educators, okay, the practitioners, and also the professional, okay, the one that has reached that level. Okay, now, based on whatever I have shown just now on how IT architecture works, okay, at present, basically, most of the thing, because we are living in the era of Web3, okay, whereby a lot of algorithm is being tailored into human needs, okay, so that why we be surprised. We open our YouTube, suddenly come out this video, okay? TikTok come out this video. So all those actually are semantics algorithm, how they do. We are going to plan to drive, okay, that semantic ability of Web3 that we have now by the IT expert, okay, to the so-called develop to kickstart with knowledge-based application. Because when we are talking about knowledge management for architecture, knowledge management for education, for practice, okay, we need some base, and we need people to actually collaborate to work on that base. Okay, so this is a so-called open knowledge, okay, and it should be open for broad stakeholders. So when we say broad stakeholder, okay, by the way, this is two that we are still working now. Number one is the architect now. It is more on the web base. Okay, it is open for everyone. Okay, student, lecturers. Okay, also architect practitioner. The purpose is that we want to do some kind, not really data mining. It's more on knowledge mining. Okay, experience by the student, expectation by the student. Okay, the behavioral or expectation by the lecturers. Okay, okay, so that I'm not even talking about the people in the industry. Okay, if we can find a semantic database where we make it easy for people actually to share their knowledge. Okay, so eventually this knowledge will become a so-called not a database or become a foundation. Let's say we want to run more complex. Okay, Bitrix 24 is among many applications out there. Okay, it's more actually a CRM-based application. Okay, but it can be tailored into architectural education base. It can also be tailored into architectural practice base. Okay, whereby we can actually monitor all the projects. We can monitor all the progress. So the Bitrix 24 is more for architecture firm. Okay, that we are working on it. One pilot project first. Okay, Hopefully, I think by sometime in September, perhaps we can get the result. Okay, but the one that we are talking now is more on the architect now. Okay, a semantic-based application. Okay, which is open to students, educators, practitioners, and professionals who are interested. Okay, the reason being is that with all these things, okay, that we have discussed just now, okay, how do we really benefit? Okay, for example, without exposure to the reality of sharing of knowledge by architects, professional architect or practitioners, students when they learn in university, perhaps they will just think, well, why should I learn structure? Why should I learn mechanical, air conditioning? What is it for? Why should I know about the cost? Okay. Same goes to educators, okay? Because sometimes we are detached too long from the real practice, okay? And if we don't keep up with what actually changing in the real world, okay, we may not realize what we can give or deliver to our students, so that we are really preparing them when they go out there, okay? It's not 100%, but at least they can grasp those knowledge, okay, to become something that they can really utilize. Otherwise, when students get out into the real system, okay, they will struggle, okay, and if they are lucky, the firm will remain them. Okay, okay, I give you 3 months, okay, 6 months for you to improve. If not, okay, the first day they make mistake, okay, then the next day you get what? The love letter. Okay, this is your last day, all right? Because the situation is changing nowadays. Okay, I think the industry, not only architecture or built environment industry, I think all industry, okay, we are looking at for competitive graduates or competitive people. Okay, when you come to our company, basically you are capable. Okay, okay, or you can learn very fast. Okay, and that's the purpose of the so-called architect now, the one that we are currently working. Hopefully can be launched, I think, after Raya. Okay, so that everybody can participate. How to actually, we can call from tacit knowledge, convert into tacit knowledge, okay? Meaning to say, through socialization. So the architect now and also the BTIC 24 just now, the platform that I showed just now, is actually ideal for that situation, okay? Because we can stream video, we can just act as good as WhatsApp or as good as whatever social media that we use. Okay, because the best to actually transfer the knowledge tacit to tacit, basically through socialization. Okay, okay, and okay, for example, from tacit knowledge to explicit knowledge. Okay, how do we externalize our experience? How do we externalize our knowledge, our 30 years knowledge in the industry? Okay, how do we externalize that so that when we talk to the student in the university, they can actually understand that easily because they never experienced that. Okay, okay. So this externalization is actually something is very challenging also. Okay, all right. For example, explicit to tacit. Okay, how actually from the knowledge that we already gained and that we already codified, okay, something that we can tangibly assess, okay, how we want to internalize it for our firm use, okay, to make a good tacit knowledge so that we can always improve our design. Okay, for students, the same thing. How you can improve design better as you go into year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same goes to the lecturer. Okay, how do you internalize that? Something that you get from the industry within this platform. Okay, so that you can make it into betterment of you in delivering your works as a student, as a lecturer, or even as architect. Right? And the second one is a combination of these two. All right. So this is what this can do. Okay. That's why we are inviting you. I have shared with you this slide. Okay, so that you can actually go into that slide, and if there are any update, you can update. Okay. So in that slide, also toward the end, you can register by clicking here. Just clicking there, okay, it's a Google form just to get to know your information, who you are, student, educators, and whatnot. Okay. The purpose is that by the time we launch this, we plan to have dedicated people who be a student, be a lecturer, be the non-part 3 architect, or be the architect themselves. How we can help you to actually codify your tacit knowledge, okay, or even codify your explicit knowledge that you have gained out there, okay, and bring it into the system. In the sense that, for example, let's say you are part 1 or you are part 2, and you are going into part 3. Okay, there's a lot of things that actually, how do we learn? How do we learn project management? We learn in school, okay? But how do we learn the right thing, the right things to do? For example, okay, if some professional who have been professional can really share, we are not saying all, but at least certain things that how to really do things, how to really become a professional architect. I think that will help a lot. Okay? And if the same platform, educators and students also can have that information, okay, basically as a student, they will know better what to expect when they graduate. And as educators, you will know better what to prepare your student for the real industry, because we are sharing this information. Okay. And again, even for the real practitioners out there, okay, we can also see what are the student query, what are the query, what do they really try to understand. So perhaps when we go to university or we are giving a talk or seminar, okay, when we see those audience in the university, okay, we can have to tailor that into that information. Okay. So this is a platform that we'll be working. So for those of you who are interested, perhaps you can click. Okay, once we are ready, I think we will giving a briefing and we start launch that. All right. So I think that is about all. The idea behind the development of Architect Now, basically, it's not architects. The reason why we put Architect Now, not Architecture Now, because to make things simple. Okay. So when we say Architect Now, means the architect know how to do. Architects students know how to do. Architects educators know how to deal with students, know how to prepare students for the real industry. Okay, and real architect, you really know how to actually give back to the society with the so-called platform. So hopefully the program, if can run successfully, we can actually benefit on the Malaysia level first. Okay, and if it's okay, then we have conducted the pilot very well. We can start bringing into XL level. Perhaps we are still there. I think that will be end of my sharing today. Thank you. I think I leave it back to Architect Azli. Thank you very much.
Wow. I want to give a round of applause to TS Idris for the really nice sharing. Okay. The idea of the architecture now, I can't wait to fill in that form, architecture now. So it's really a good intention by also maybe your team. Okay. And for now, I open to the floor. If any question from the floor, anyone? So yes, TS has shares about his focus on tacit, explicit. Okay, if I can repeat, explicit as I can remember is something is in our brain, right? It's still stuck in our brain. Nobody knows is what is in our brain. Where explicit is where we transfer that whatever from our brain to any hard material, example drawings, writing, and others. So this is where it's all about knowledge management. Okay. I open to the floor while I'm any question, just raise up or just unmute yourself. You can ask. I see Miss Yasmin is ready to ask or connected to audio. Okay. Yes, this is why we're waiting for others to ask. Yeah, I would love this. Your words is about information to knowledge to wisdom. Okay. And I believe we can get information all around us by using our handphone, our gadgets information. And the question is, what is the difference between information and knowledge? If you can brief us.
Okay, the difference between information and knowledge. All right, I can elaborate further. Information is something that we can get everywhere. Okay? As I mentioned, we can have so many information. Okay, and if we don't know how to actually convert it into valuable knowledge. Okay? So when we have information and we have knowledge, is actually two different things. Knowledge is something that will help us to make a decision. Okay, okay, that the knowledge. Okay, and without the correct structure or the correct, not to say trick, the correct techniques of understanding knowledge. Okay, we may be swamped with the knowledge and it go back into information, and it won't benefit us. When it won't benefit us, for example, as educators, for example, or as a student, we couldn't deliver it. Okay, to what people expectation. So same goes to architect as well. So I think having information, not necessarily we are having knowledge. And when we have a knowledge and we know how to deal with that knowledge, that's where the wisdom comes. I hope that answer the question like that.
Yeah, very clear, very clear. Thank you. So at the end of the day, we want to be as the wisdom. Wisdom is the most important thing. Okay, thank you for that. And about this one, KM1, KM2, KM3, we have result oriented, process oriented, and technology oriented. Can you brief us? Does these three is related to information, knowledge, or how?
Oh, okay. Okay. Talking about, okay, basically in general, when we talk about KM, knowledge management, in general, we are still referring to data and information, okay, in general. Okay. So that's why I think the beginning, I think in 1960s, when the term KM coined, okay, they are still referring knowledge management as managing the information. Okay. Right. Talking about KM1, KM2, KM3. That one is actually more on the stages of how the knowledge management is actually being elevated until to the current stage. Okay, because the current stage is KM3 is actually more on how we can make use of AI. Okay, how we can make use of semantic technology in the IT structure to help people to actually grasp or to help people to have to come up with certain ideas or solution or perhaps a possible solution so that later on we can decide. Okay. But again, talking about the three just now, whether it is technology oriented, whether it is goal oriented or result driven, those are still being applied in all era of KM. It is still being applied. It doesn't mean KM1 for that. It is still applied until today from the start of was point. Yeah.
All right, thank you for that explanation. Okay, I open to the floor. Any question? Okay. Okay. I just want to know about this architecture now. Is it a website? Is it an apps or how is it?
Oh, okay. The architect now is actually the one that we are currently develops. It is more on the web base. Okay. But the beauty of this application is that it is have the semantic technology. So that, for example, let's say I'm a student. Okay. I have something query or I have something I share my experience based on the design. Okay. So when we post the thing, the system will actually automatically identify us as a student. Okay. And let's say in the future, when we search, for example, when we search for information, okay, based on the profile of the student, okay, the system itself will bring us into more student-based knowledge rather than practitioner knowledge. Same goes to the other thing. So this is the thing that even though we open to all the four student, educators, patient, and part three, basically the thing will be tailored, or the IT language, the semantic language is tailored into what you usually browse, or what we usually asking for, or what we are usually looking for, and that be more. So with that, is actually the system have the seeker. I call the seekers of knowledge now, to really go into that. So that is an option. So this is what we are currently developing. So talking about whether it is app, it is actually a web based, but it is also mobile apps. Okay, so we can open in iPad. Okay, we can update in iPad. Okay, we can get information. We can share information with that. So it is the current trend in whether you are using laptop, desktop, or whatnot, or laptop or your mobile, you can easily access the information. And this is the beauty of social, we call social architecture, especially for texting to texting. Okay, when we have this flexibility, it will help a lot, to get into more broader base of people. So that's the idea of architect now that we are currently developing. Thank you.
All right, thank you, T.S. Idris. Yeah, I've seen raise hand, kita Adrianta.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Convener, Architect Azli. First of all, thank you so much, T.S. Idris. You have contributed your sharing tonight to our PEM Academia Discourse. I would like to ask your opinion, T.S. Idris. Yeah, there's two questions here, just an opinion, and then maybe perhaps we can open up to the floor. I can see a few of our attendees should be support my queries. Just only asking an opinion. Number one, when talking about students from universities, when they studied their part one and their masters in part two, well, after they are done their internship, maybe like about nowadays 3 months or maybe a 6 months internship with a very small observation and exploration on the practicing architects in building industry. And then they start to, after they graduate, they start to observe and then they start to begin their journey in practicing in architecture. So need your opinion about what the student have learned from the universities. It consists about like how many percentage, and then what to explore, during the building industry. It's like a restart, or maybe it's just a beginning for the students. What is your opinion about that observation into your sharing tonight? Second, for the educators, even researchers, what do you think that if the academician, they don't have any experience in the building industry, and then they come and educate and teaching in the universities, because one of the requirements from MAPS, they encourage all the academician in Malaysia should register themselves as a graduate architects or even AT. But what is your opinion about if don't have any opportunity to serve building industry, don't have any experience, and they still teaching in the universities in theoretical, in without any practicality? What is your opinion about this? Because we're talking about how to move forward in our Malaysian architecture education now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aganta. Okay, maybe the first question. What students learn in university and how much that they have learned is actually benefit them or will be used when they go out there. So this is the one that I mentioned just now. It actually is talking about 80-20 rules. Okay? 80-20 rules in terms of learning, meaning to say that from 100% that you learn, okay, 80% will be put on shelf. Okay, we don't really use it. It's become a data information. It's only 20% that you have learned, okay, will benefit you when you are practice, when we work. Okay, now we take that 20%, okay, we are taking another 20% out of that 20%. Okay, the real valuable knowledge that we learn in university is only 4%. Okay, and this is the cream of knowledge that we learn from part one, part two, okay, or even our internship. okay, that it actually can benefit the student. So that's why when we have a system whereby the knowledge can be managed and people are attached to that system, not by force, but by betterment for myself. So that's how a student can benefit. Because the reality in the practice is that what we have learned 2 years ago may now become obsolete. Okay? Even if we are trying to explore things like metaverse architecture, okay, we have our own metaverse architecture, but for instance, like we still look into Facebook, okay, they are trying to build their own metaverse. Unfortunately, you have what? You have avatar without legs. I don't know whether now they have leg or not. Okay, but I hope our practitioner won't do what Facebook do. Okay, so this is the thing that the knowledge that we gain, if we can grab those 4%, so whatever proposal that we do for practice later on as a student that learning that 4% also will help us to be intuition. So that's in terms of what students get from their knowledge through their 3 years and 5 years education. Yeah, I hope that answered the first question. Okay, the second one, this is my opinion in terms of academician who don't have experience. Okay, first of all is that we really have to expose ourselves into the industry. There are many ways. Okay, either we are attached into the practice, okay, or we are attached to the program that organized by PEM. I think that's also the purpose of the recommendation or encouragement for graduate to actually become AT or AG. Okay, so that we can attach to the real practitioner out there. So even though we don't really experience that, okay, we are being exposed to reality. So this is the one that I mentioned now, the tacit knowledge from the practitioners get into the lecturers, okay, so that you can use that knowledge, because it's something that you cannot read. You can read. Even if you read, perhaps we don't understand it. Okay, but when we have a social architecture or social discussion with the real practitioner or the real architect, okay, and we can bring that benefit to the student. And that's why also the idea for question number 1 and number 2, that also the idea of architect now. Okay, because we like it or not, we are living in the social media world, and the semantic based one is the one that have to that to capture that. I still couldn't find a platform that can benefit like Bitrix. Bitrix is something more for organization. If we can find that, perhaps we can also work on that. But at least the architect now is something that can bridge the student expectation, what they have learned, and also can bridge the knowledge by academician. Perhaps they don't have that experience. They can find and they can socialize with that, and they can bring the benefit to themselves and also person. That would be my opinion in these two. Thank you.
My opinion, T.S. Idris, yeah. I mean, talking about these two questions that I throw out to the floor just now. For me, I believe to improve our Malaysian architecture, not only for education, but also to support the building industry. I always believe in the symbiosis thematic, because some other, not all to go for professionals dimension. We really need, in building industry, we really need professionals, the educators, the researchers, or even we can perhaps embark on the policymakers. This is what I believe to improve our building industry, because not all, practicing architects will be fully knowledgeable compared to the researchers, compared to the academician, even the PhD holders. And then again, the researchers, PhD holders also, not all can have an opportunity to participate and experience in building industries. But again, nobody's perfect here. But I always encourage towards to this Malaysian building industry, we need a symbiosis. We need to work together. Not everyone to be expert at a certain angle, but let's work together. Maybe we can collaborate a practicing architect in the industry to the academicians, and then researchers can support the ecosystem with the building industry. And then, perhaps one day the architects should have in the level of policymakers, together with the researchers, together with the practicing architects, and also students also, they can embark more theoretical, more ideas, fresh ideas, and then we can work together towards that. I think this is my opinion based on your tonight's sharing session. Thank you so much, Idris. And perhaps maybe we can open up to other floor, or maybe want to deliberate or want to challenge this statement. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Architect Diranta. We have one question in chat actually. No names. Just don't want to mention her name because the question is the knowledge-based project is an intriguing initiative. May I know who is the one who funding this project? I believe the person asking about this architecture now. Who is funding that apps? Is it MAPS? Is it IUKL? Is it by Tan Sri Idris?
Okay. To be frank, currently we don't have any funding yet. Okay. All right. But it is an initiative that I've been working for quite long with my fellow friend. Perhaps if we don't have the funding, we will start with whatever resource that we have. Okay. Because I think the longer we delay, I think the longer the symbiosis will get into hands. Okay? And if we are looking into the reality in the industry and also in discussion in architecture realm, we find that we have been talking about how to get people from the industry, academia to benefit from each other for very long. Okay? So I hope this initiative, hopefully if we can get a funder as soon as possible, even better. But even without funder, I think we will kick off first. So that because the idea is actually to do something that really benefit for all the four stakeholders just now. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe also I cannot wait to see this architect now to be in place. Yeah, because it involves all the stakeholders, and of course to the younger generation, of course the student and the practitioner. I think there's no more question on the floor. Okay. I think wait, my camera is flickering. Okay. Anyone from the floor, you can unmute yourself and ask. Okay. I think otherwise, yeah. I think otherwise we end up here for a while because this is the third series, and next series we will call upon all the three speakers to be in physical in PAM, and we will moderate that, and I hope to see you soon all, including TS Idris. And before we end, I would like to thanks to TS Idris for the sharing of knowledge, very informative, very impactful. The best part is architect now, where I think we all can't wait to see that and to be involved in that, the software or the apps. Okay. And last but not least, I want to thank all these persons who come and support us. Any last word from TS Idris?
Any last word? Perhaps my last word is that not my last word. I would say that
Your
whatever
advice,
architect must do for benefit of mankind. I think that.
Yeah, that's a noble word.
Architect Azli,
Yeah.
maybe perhaps I can take an opportunity tonight. So we encourage all of attendees who can share this info. Tomorrow is the second day of the the PAM Education Architecture, Engineering and Construction Forum Showcase.
Yes.
At IUKL PAM Student Hub.
Yes.
At IUKL PAM Student Hub is the second day. It's good for the student who can observe and learn about building technology, building services, building construction, even the academician, the lecturers who teaching the building technology, building services, or even building materials, perhaps can come and join tomorrow's session, a secondary session, because this is the first time ever PAM Education providing a platform, kind of a mini architects dedicated special to students and academicians, talking about building materials, building services, building construction, because we managed to call all the suppliers in the building industry to share the information on technical data detailing. So they still got time to come and hop in tomorrow at PAM Student Hub at IUKL. Yeah. Thank you so much, Azli. Thank you so much, Idris, for your sharing tonight. And thank you to all attendees
Yes, thank you
who
so much.
participate tonight. Thank you.
All right. Hope to see you guys in physical, maybe next year, this year, or the next topic. Thank you, guys. Thank you, TS Idris. Okay.
Thank you, Padre. Well done.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Assalamualaikum. Selamat berpuasa. Bye.
Selamat berpuasa, selamat hari raya. Thank you, everyone.